So, PSG captain Thiago Silva is on the move to London and is expected to join Chelsea. Here's what to expect. Silva spent 8 seasons at PSG, playing 315 games for Paris in all competitions, winning 7 Ligue 1 titles, 6 Coupe de la Ligue and 5 Coupe de France titles. Silva had moved to Paris back in 2012 from AC Milan alongside Milanese teammate Zlatan Ibrahimovic for a combined fee of just under £60 million and was immediately made captain after 3 seasons at the San Siro following a 2009 move from Fluminense. Chelsea were reportedly also interested at that time too. At the time, Silva was seen as one of, if not outright, the best centre-back in world football, certainly outside Spain. In 2013, he was the only centre-back to make the Ballon d'Or shortlist, finishing 21st, and was selected in the FIFA 11 alongside Sergio Ramos that year. Silva has made 89 appearances for Brazil, winning the 2019 Copa America, but was of course spared the famous 7-1 thrashing by Brazil at the World Cup in 2014 due to suspension. Despite the success that Silva has enjoyed in Paris and the aura he arrived with, his career with PSG since has been a little bit fluctuating. Although more than once he has enjoyed a renaissance in form when it had started to look as though he was well past his best, this season, for example, has been surprisingly good one for Silva despite his advancing years, and even topped our GFFN 100 as recently as 2016, but his leadership has occasionally been non-existent when PSG needed him the most. The 6-1 defeat to Barcelona in 2017, for example, Unai Emery even thought about subbing him before half-time, and he might as well have, given that he only completed 3 passes in the entire second half as PSG capitulated. Emery then dropped Silva for the round of 16 first leg trip to Real Madrid the following season after an average year up to that point. PSG lost 3-1. Although, for example, his more domineering side was so memorably shown during the 2017 Coupe de la Ligue final win over eventual Ligue 1 winners Monaco that season, where he masterfully bullied Kylian Mbappe after the game as PSG won 4-1. Mbappe was supposedly left in tears afterwards. While Chelsea fans will remember his extra-time second-led header at Stamford Bridge to send PSG through in the 2014-15 Champions League last 16. Compared to Gabriel of Lille, for example, check out our video on him from last week, Silva is much more of a traditional centre-back. While he is still good technically and remains a very intelligent footballer, he's not going to be spraying 50-yard passes out to the flanks too often, or dribbling into midfield, or taking any risks against opposition forwards. He is, however, at his best, a brilliantly bullish, physical, one-on-one defender who will quickly identify problems and neutralise danger efficiently. His positioning, heading ability and organisational skills are still excellent, and his nickname, O Monstro, remains well earned. He'll be a danger at the opposite end from corners too. Alongside Giorgio Chiellini and maybe Sergio Ramos, you could make a case for him being one of the last great central defenders of an era that is already long gone, one defined by Fabio Cannavaro and Alessandro Nesta. Despite this, his move to Chelsea makes sense for both club and player. Although he would undoubtedly prefer to remain at PSG and was very disappointed not to see his contract extended, Silva can continue his career at a high level, while Chelsea will be getting a defender with presence and stature, as well as a mentor for their increasingly high number of young players. Although there are some sizable caveats, Silva is 36 at the end of September and he hasn't had much defending to do over the last few seasons with PSG in Ligue 1, while the average Premier League striker is, pound for pound, much more of a threat than the average Ligue 1 forward at this stage. Meanwhile, Chelsea proved last season that their style of play under Frank Lampard can leave their defence exposed, and whether Silva is capable of dealing with a combination of all those factors on a weekly basis at this stage of his career is still a little doubtful. There's talk of Silva being made captain, which suggests he's going to play a lot of football, and as such, much will depend on how Frank Lampard deploys him. Chelsea used both a 2-man and 3-man centre-back setup last season, and placing Silva in the middle of a 3-man defence makes most sense here. He has some experience in that setup recently, including on the right of a 3, as Thomas Tuchel used that kind of setup at the start of his PSG reign, although less so this season. He would have protection on either side, and Chelsea can maximise his organisational and leadership skills and his ability to orchestrate from deep by placing him at the heart of their defensive unit, while Silva would have the freedom to shuffle across and cover decisively or assist a colleague, both main strengths of his. If Lampard decides to use Silva as part of a 2-man centre-back pairing regularly, however, that might be a bit of a concern given the Brazilian's age and the space Chelsea allowed last season. Maybe a fully fit N'Golo Kante could protect Silva sufficiently, or Lampard could reserve a 2-man centre-back setup for games where Chelsea should be in control, at home to weaker Premier League sides or some simpler Champions League group games, for example. That sort of scenario would, however, be very much in Thiago Silva's comfort zone. It describes the vast majority of PSG home games that he's been involved with. However, whether he could maintain the required intensity over an extended period in either system, but particularly in a back four defence, is still a little bit questionable at this stage. He may have to be used fairly sparingly in the faster, more expansive Premier League. It should be mentioned that given his age, Silva probably doesn't have long left at this level, maybe 2 seasons. He said recently, however, that I still want to play for another 3 or 4 years. I want to prepare myself for the World Cup in Qatar in 2022. We will see how my body responds. It remains to be seen if both of those goals are still a little bit ambitious. Nevertheless, overall for me, this is a really good idea for Chelsea in the context of their current direction as a club in bringing in talented younger players ready for a step up, such as Timo Werner and possibly Kai Havertz, rather than focusing on more established stars later in their 20s. Silva adds experience, balance and a calming influence on and off the field. He will be respected as captain by all and is an excellent role model for all as an extremely committed and hard-working professional. However Thiago Silva is deployed by Frank Lampard, his Premier League adventure will be an interesting watch throughout next season.